Hello and welcome back to Digital Assets Daily. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in your corner of the world. A few articles I wanted to discuss. It kind of shows like a little scene that's playing out before us, but diving right in, third of the U.S. swing state voters in the United States, they favor crypto, and this is according to a Newsweek study that they had recently done, showing basically a third of the U.S. swing state voters in the U.S. favor cryptocurrency as a means of payment in their state. Poll was done by Redfield and Wilton Strategies and revealed that between 28% and 37% of voters in Arizona, Texas, and Wisconsin, respectively, would vote yes on a ballot that would legalize cryptocurrencies. So remembering that, I want to point out a few other articles here that kind of starts, showing how this could be a very real possibility, sooner than the rest of the world is going to be expecting. But for investors in digital assets, retail investors like you and I, it's something that we feel like is never going to happen, is never coming, it's taking forever. But again, that only you kind of have that feeling as a new investor as you start holding. But the longer you hold, understanding what you have, it just feels like inevitable. You know what's coming and can't be stopped. And you just kind of get into that zone when you know you have the right assets. So again, know what you hold in DYOR. Do your own research. And again, we're going to share everything that we find on our journey and from our perspective so that you can be informed as we are. Now, overly stringent crypto regulations, they preclude banks from crypto and financial trade groups. So members of the global financial industry have implored regulators to avoid uncompromising regulations that could stifle crypto. And feel free to get into any of these articles that you want, because with every video, we share the links down below in the description below, and you can read every single article you want or play the complete videos if you're interested. Sometimes we will bring up a video and mention it in a discussion, but we don't necessarily play it because we don't want any conflict, with YouTube on our channel. So you can see here, basically, the perspective I've always had. Let's specifically make this about Ripple and XRP. For me, Ripple and XRP, I know there's the court case, etc., and they're going to win hands down. But for me, I believe they've always had the regulatory clarity for what I feel is, this article, for a good example, I see it as that the banks and the financial institutions, the financial trade group, etc., I feel they're the ones that don't have the regulatory clarity that they're looking for, especially and specifically in the United States, because as Ripple, or Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple, the CEO from Ripple, has stated many times over and again, I believe it's like 90 or 95%, whatever the number is, we've discussed it many times and just starts becoming a blur. Just say 90+% of their customers are outside of the USA because of that clarity. So for me, the view that I've always shared with the whole Ripple/XRP lawsuit wasn't so much for them, even though the lawsuit is directed at them, as it was for the banks within the USA. Because once the clarity takes place, then here's where I see it from my perspective. The volume of use case and utility that's going to hit XRP because of the software that Ripple has designed based on that currency, the volume is going to be magnificent. Like, it's going to be almost mind-blowing. And that's kind of, the multiple different layers as we have shown, when they flip the switch, what the switch could be when they flip it. And to me, there's multiple switches. I think it would be mind-blowing to see them all flipped at once. For me, it's kind of like a house. As you walk through the door, you flip on the switch, and now you have a view here. And you go into the next room, you flip on the switch, now you have here. And as you go room to room, now your whole house is lit. And that's kind of the way that I have always seen, like as Ripple XRP Ripple software, XRP, the currency, starts getting used to get rid of the Nostro Vostro for instantaneous settlement, real-time payments, and for cross-border remittance. All of the things that it's designed for institutional, wholesale, and the enterprise level. That's massive. And whenever this capability is able to be released, as I would say, in the USA, then you're going to see the US GDP being kind of tossed and thrown onto this thing. And again, as we often discuss, I believe on the retail level, we're going to see something more of Stellar. And the reason I always point those two out is because this channel is USA based. We are in the US. So Ripple and Stellar being US based companies, that's why I think the focus will be such a, magnifying glass or microscope, whatever you want to call it, upon them for the future financial system. And that, again, is a global system. Having said that, too, it's kind of really hard to make a point because then there's so many asterisks where you can just lead off a million different directions and showing that. And again, if you're going to take a jump around the world, we know in Africa, we have both Ripple and Stellar there. We have, I don't think I'll stop there because there's a handful of things that are slowly being released, and I don't want to create any conflict with that. But we'll continue to show everything that we find and the perspective that we view it. So as more news comes out, there's a few of you that I've talked personally with, and you understand probably why I stopped, and you might even be laughing at this point. But that's kind of why I don't want to go into something that, the news hasn't released yet that we found in research years ago, and it just continues to play out and give our group a very confident mindset with the investments that we discussed. So another quick video that I was watching, designing a future financial landscape in a world without banks. I'm adding it to this even though I'm not going to play it. Basically, Roland Falls, the CEO of Solaris Bank, he was speaking off the back of Money 2020. It's like another event like we have with Ripple and Stellar and the other ones that you're aware of, WEF type event, but it's Money 2020. And he basically was discussing how, people can interact with money basically without banks. And he gives his perspective and opinion on that. So it's about a 7.5 minute video. If you're interested, again, as always, the videos and the links will be available in the description below. Feel free to click it. It's really short. And if you're into understanding more of, the financial system, it's a good video. If you're just here for the investment, you're probably not going to find it too exciting. So moving on, the point of that was, all of these articles start connecting the overly stringent crypto regulations, the swing states wanting to use crypto as a payment system. Now we're talking about designing a future financial landscape or an industry, a system without banks. So I want to finish off this video. Stellar leveraging on-chain assets to support the Stellar ecosystem. And this article was actually written by Danelle Dixon, the CEO of the Stellar Development Foundation, SDF. So she's stating that they're focused on innovative financial support for those building and growing the Stellar network. And in fact, it's right here in the mandate, basically, with Stellar. And if you're coming back to view all of this, you can click that and it'll take you directly to Stellar's mandate. But the over 57 million USD value distributed versus or via the grants, the Stellar Community Fund and the SDF Enterprise Fund, equity investments in the last couple of years. And this support is inextricably tied to the mission of creating equitable access to the global financial system. So with our most recent support of AirTM, Travel Credit, Wire, Settle, and Leave Global, we're catalyzing the growth of cross-border payments and international financial services. And again, you can see how, directly from Stellar and then the articles we've discussed today, it's here, it's inevitable, it's happening. It's just a matter of time. And I know whatever your level of investing may be, if you're new, maybe you've been here today is your first day, or maybe you've been here 10 years and maybe you're on the level of seeing the big picture, whether you just started or where you'd rather be retiring any second. It's just a matter of time. And there's a lot of manipulation right now, and there's a lot of, I guess if you think of it as like a medical explanation, a lot of side effects that are kind of affecting this. You know what I mean? There's a lot of political landscape that's going on. You know, we just had an election, a lot of things happening in the U.S. and the U.S. does, you know, whether people realize it or not, it does have an impact on the global economy, not just from our regulators, but from the political landscape as well. And I think all of that is affecting that. You know, I think hopefully, you know, by the end of the year, it'd be nice to see everything in November just coincide for the perfect storm, enabling us to launch, you know, on schedule like mid-December. But we'll see how this plays out. And I think, you know, I knew there would be a lot of excitement in August, but it seems like September is already much, much more exciting. And I wouldn't expect it at this point to slow down before the end of December. I'm just hoping all of this will coincide and level out before we get into December, because Q4 is the next scheduled event. I would say if it fell into the schedule and the cycle, and it followed the 2017 a bull run, about mid-December, we should start seeing assets like XLM and XRP really, really, really begin to take off. So I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that all of this political landscape and all of the delays have not affected that cycle and schedule, and that we can stay on track moving forward. And again, remember, this is not financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. But as always, before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought. If they say it's impossible for them, not for you. And guys, much love. I want to say thanks to each and every one of you and our VIP on Patreon. Thanks to Surfmeister. Much love, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.